The ambulance doors slammed shut just as the rain began to pour, turning the bright afternoon into a blur of flashing red lights and panic. A little girl stood trembling beside a tall single father, clutching his hand with tears streaming down her face while doctors rushed an unconscious businesswoman through the emergency room entrance. Nurses kept asking questions, but the man remained silent, staring at the woman whose life he had just saved. Then a sharply dressed woman pushed through the crowd, froze in place, and whispered words that left everyone speechless. "Wait, is he your first love?" In that single moment, years of buried memories, heartbreaking sacrifices, and unfinished promises came crashing back to life. Before we begin, if you believe kindness deserves a second chance and that love can survive even the hardest seasons of life, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to the channel Hardworking Dad. Your support helps us bring more heartfelt stories like this one. The man standing outside the emergency room was named Malcolm Rhodes, a hardworking single black father whose life had become a daily battle after losing his wife 4 years earlier. Every sunrise meant another race against time. He woke before dawn, prepared breakfast, braided his 8-year-old daughter Nia's curly hair as best as he could, packed her lunch, and headed to work as a maintenance supervisor. His hands were rough from years of honest labor, but they were gentle whenever they held his daughter. She had become the reason he refused to give up, even when bills piled higher than hope itself. Malcolm had once dreamed of becoming an architect, but life rarely follows the plans people carefully draw. After his wife passed away from a sudden illness, every dream was quietly packed away inside a dusty corner of his heart. Survival became more important than ambition. Yet despite the endless responsibilities, he taught Nia that kindness cost nothing and that every person deserved compassion, no matter their title or appearance. Across the city, Seraphina Vaughn lived a life that seemed perfect from the outside. She was one of the youngest CEOs in the region, leading a rapidly growing technology company valued at millions. Magazine covers praised her brilliance. Television interviews celebrated her success. Employees admired her determination. Yet every evening she returned to an empty penthouse where silence echoed louder than applause. Success had earned her respect but stolen nearly every meaningful relationship along the way. Few people knew that long before luxury offices and international conferences, Seraphina had grown up in a modest neighborhood where she shared countless childhood afternoons with a thoughtful boy named Malcolm. They had been inseparable. Their dreams were simple then. He wanted to design beautiful homes. She wanted to build a company that changed lives. They encouraged one another through every challenge until life separated them after college. Different opportunities, painful misunderstandings, and unexpected losses slowly erased their connection without either of them truly wanting goodbye. Years passed without a single meeting. On one unusually warm afternoon, Malcolm finished repairing equipment at a downtown office complex. Nia waited patiently beside him, reading her favorite library book while they prepared to head home. Suddenly they noticed a luxury vehicle swerving violently before crashing into a streetlight. Without hesitation Malcolm sprinted toward the smoking car while frightened pedestrians froze in disbelief. Inside the driver's seat was Seraphina. She was unconscious. Ignoring the shattered glass cutting into his arms, Malcolm forced open the damaged door and carefully pulled her to safety moments before smoke began filling the vehicle. Someone called emergency services while Malcolm stayed beside her, checking her breathing exactly as he had learned during community first aid training years earlier. Nia knelt quietly nearby, praying with folded hands that the stranger would survive. Neither father nor daughter realized whose life they were saving. When paramedics arrived, Malcolm climbed into the ambulance after doctors asked if anyone had witnessed the accident. During the frantic ride to the hospital, Seraphina briefly opened her eyes. Everything around her appeared blurry, but for one fleeting second she recognized the familiar face leaning over her. She tried to speak. No words came. Moments later she lost consciousness again. At the hospital, doctors rushed her into emergency treatment while Malcolm completed paperwork because no family members had arrived yet. He almost left once medical staff assured him she was receiving excellent care, but something deep inside urged him to stay. Nearly an hour later, Seraphina's closest friend and executive assistant, Camille Mercer, hurried into the hospital after receiving the frightening phone call. She thanked hospital staff before noticing Malcolm standing quietly beside his daughter. She stared. Recognition slowly filled her eyes. Camille had seen old photographs tucked away inside Seraphina's private office years earlier. There had always been one smiling teenage boy whose picture Seraphina refused to throw away despite dozens of moves and countless career milestones. Camille whispered with disbelief, "Wait, is he your first love?" Malcolm lowered his eyes, surprised anyone still remembered those distant years. He simply nodded. Everything suddenly made sense. Hours later, doctors announced that Seraphina had suffered a severe stress-induced medical emergency combined with dehydration and exhaustion. Months of non-stop work had pushed her body beyond its limits. Thankfully, because Malcolm had pulled her from the vehicle so quickly, her injuries were far less serious than they could have been. When Seraphina finally regained consciousness the next morning, sunlight streamed gently through the hospital window. The first face she saw was not an executive, investor, or board member. It was Malcolm. Time seemed to stand still. Neither knew where to begin after so many silent years. Instead of discussing the past, Malcolm simply asked whether she felt better. His calm kindness broke something inside Seraphina that years of corporate success had carefully hidden behind confidence. For the first time in years, she cried. Not because she was injured. Because someone cared without expecting anything in return. Over the following week, Seraphina recovered steadily. She insisted on meeting Malcolm properly after leaving the hospital. During their first conversation outside medical walls, she met cheerful little Nia, who instantly filled every awkward silence with innocent curiosity and warm smiles. Watching Malcolm patiently encourage his daughter reminded Seraphina of the compassionate young man she had loved long ago. Nothing about his character had changed. Only the burdens he carried had grown heavier. As they spent more time together, Seraphina quietly discovered how difficult Malcolm's life truly was. He worked overtime almost every week. He skipped meals so Nia could enjoy school field trips. He secretly repaired neighbors' homes without charging elderly families because he believed helping people mattered more than money. Meanwhile, Malcolm learned that Seraphina's glamorous world hid exhausting loneliness. Endless meetings had replaced birthdays. Business victories had replaced friendships. Every promotion had built another invisible wall between her and genuine happiness. Their conversations gradually healed wounds neither realized still existed. One afternoon, Seraphina visited Malcolm's modest apartment to deliver books she had promised Nia. She noticed cracked walls, aging furniture, and unfinished architectural sketches carefully stored inside a worn cardboard box. She picked one up. The drawings were extraordinary. Beautiful community parks, affordable family homes, welcoming neighborhoods filled every page. Malcolm quietly admitted he still designed buildings late at night after Nia slept because dreaming cost nothing. Seraphina could barely hold back tears. A talent like his had been buried beneath responsibility for years. The next morning she made an unexpected decision. Instead of offering Malcolm charity, she offered him opportunity. Her company planned to develop a large community innovation center designed to provide education, childcare, and job training for struggling families. She asked Malcolm to become part of the planning team, helping design spaces that reflected real community needs instead of expensive corporate ideas. At first, Malcolm refused. He believed someone with his background could never belong inside executive meetings. Seraphina reminded him that wisdom earned through hardship often creates better solutions than experience gained inside luxury offices. Slowly, he accepted. The project transformed not only the community but Malcolm himself. His practical ideas impressed architects, engineers, and investors alike. Parents praised playground layouts inspired by Nia's suggestions. Elderly residents loved accessible gardens Malcolm insisted should never be removed to reduce costs. For the first time in many years, he saw pieces of his forgotten dream becoming reality. Nia proudly told every classmate that her father was helping build hope. Months later, during the grand opening ceremony, hundreds of families gathered beneath bright blue skies. Children laughed across colorful playgrounds while local musicians filled the air with joyful melodies. Standing before the crowd, Seraphina spoke not about financial success or business achievements. She spoke about courage. She explained that the greatest investment any company could make was believing in people before they believed in themselves. Without mentioning every detail, she thanked the man who had saved her life and reminded everyone that true heroes often wear work boots instead of expensive suits. The audience rose in thunderous applause. Malcolm looked toward Nia. She smiled with overwhelming pride. At that moment he realized his greatest achievement had never been surviving hardship. It had been raising a daughter whose heart remained filled with compassion despite every challenge they had faced. As seasons changed, Malcolm and Seraphina continued rebuilding a friendship founded not on regret but on gratitude. They understood that life had taken them through painful roads for reasons they could never fully explain. They could not recover lost years, but they could choose what came next. One quiet afternoon they visited the neighborhood where they had first met as children. The old playground had been replaced with a beautiful park remarkably similar to one of Malcolm's childhood sketches. They sat together watching children run freely beneath the afternoon sun. Neither needed grand speeches. Peace itself became the answer they had searched for all along. Their story reminded everyone around them that love is not always about dramatic romance. Sometimes love returns as forgiveness. Sometimes it arrives disguised as friendship. Sometimes it appears in the middle of an ordinary day when one person chooses compassion instead of walking away. Malcolm never expected that stopping to help a stranger would reopen a chapter he believed had ended forever. Seraphina never imagined that the person who saved her life would also rescue her from a future filled with lonely success. Together they proved that kindness creates miracles no amount of wealth can ever purchase. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video, leave a heartfelt comment, share it with your family and friends, and subscribe to Hardworking Dad. Your support inspires us to keep sharing stories that remind the world compassion still exists. Sparkling Heart special request, comment below with the words, "Kindness always finds its way," if you believe one act of compassion can change someone's entire life. As the golden afternoon sun slowly disappeared behind the city skyline, Malcolm walked home holding Nia's hand while Seraphina watched them with quiet gratitude. Years earlier, they had lost each other because life became too complicated. Yet destiny had patiently waited for the perfect ordinary afternoon to bring them together again. Their journey proved that broken dreams can bloom once more, forgotten love can become lasting hope, and the smallest act of kindness can rewrite an entire future. Sometimes the greatest miracles never begin inside grand palaces or luxury offices. They begin when one tired father chooses to stop, help a stranger, and remind the world that a loving heart will always be stronger than any hardship.